All right, guys, what's going on? I am here today with my man, Mr. Tony Stephan, registered dietitian, America's trusted registered dietitian. I absolutely love that. Tony, welcome, my man.
What's up, man? How are you? Thank you so much for having me here. Super excited to be here and add whatever value I can for you and your listeners, man. So thank you to you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure they're in for a treat. I think there's going to be quite a bit of value added here. And actually, so I've interviewed Stephanie, who's on staff with us. I'm actually interviewing you before Ellen. So Ellen's the most recent RD we brought on. I haven't even got to interview her yet. So you're number 2, my man.
Dude, I'm excited, man. I love so much that you support the dietetics community. I know your background's in nutrition and dietetics from Texas Women's University. So dude, just very grateful for that. I know the field sometimes can get kind of like pushed aside in the whole space of nutrition, right? Because there's so many strong coaches like yourself, Jason Phillips, Paul Ravella, who aren't RDs, but I truly appreciate, I know our field appreciates like you taking dietitians and like kind of like closing the gap between formal education and real world application, man. So thank you to you for doing that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I don't want to start with this yet, so we won't go super deep into it, but I think you could agree. It's like, I've worked with now so many different like registered dietitians and talked with so many registered dietitians, and I mean, really it's no different than how I was as well. A lot of them, like, it's almost as if we're never enough, right? Yeah. We're not ever smart enough. Like, we need another certification, another credential, I need to work for another person before I have the confidence to be able to feel as if I'm an expert, right? I was just talking to this with Ellen just now, and it's one of these situations where it's like she's amazing and so smart, has so much value to add, but maybe just because of like the past and like different jobs, like it's almost like those people that were over her maybe just didn't build her up enough.
Very true, man. Yeah, I can relate to that so much, and I'm sure we'll talk about this story one of these times, but yeah, to where like you get in dietetics is interesting because you have to go through clinical rotations and you have these preceptors, and sometimes these preceptors, man, they're not the most happiest of people, right? So for what reason they take students is beyond me, but they get students in and they're not very happy with their careers, so they can really push their negativity, their cynicism, their just overall bad energy on students. And it's like the worst thing ever. So I've had that happen. I have mentor clients who have literally had that happen to them, like preceptors yelling at them, preceptors telling them they're a failure, preceptors telling them they're wrong. So yeah, you're right. Then it breeds these dietitians who have RDs after their name, MSs after their name, MS, Masters of Science, Bachelor of Science after their name. And they're coming into the space and they're like, I don't know enough. Or I need to go get a PhD. I need to go get a website. I need to go get precision nutrition and NCI level 1. And then there's people like yourself and like me who are just like, screw it. Like, yeah, we have formal education, but I'm just going to take action. I'm going to like move forward. And it's hard, man. It's not their fault, but it's just formal education is challenging because it can really put you in this like sphere of, like you said, one more course, one more cert, one more letter after my name, then I'll start. And really the people who succeed are the people who just start.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think I love the mentality of like wanting to be better and do more and get certifications, all these things. But it's just like, if you're not doing while you're educating, like you're missing it. Right? Like you have so much education in you that you could be providing value to other people's life, and you're not doing that because you don't think that you're ready or you don't think you're the best. And it's like, well, you're smarter than 99% of the population, so you're doing them a disservice by not adding value to their life.
Totally, man. Totally. Absolutely agree.
All right, cool. So let's dive into this. So I want to start off. You have an amazing story. I don't want to make this whole podcast about your story, even though we probably definitely could make it about. But just kind of give the viewers kind of just an intro on you, and then from there we'll kind of start to dive in a little bit more into maybe just the upbringing that you had and kind of some of the things you had to overcome there, and then we'll kind of dive into a little bit of surface level stuff with what you went through with school.
Sure, man. Yeah. So where I am today, so like, as you mentioned, I am a registered dietitian. I have a bachelor's degree in dietetics. I've been a personal trainer since I was 18. I still have a certification. I don't practice personal training anymore. I'm all nutrition based. But I've been a personal trainer for a decade now, which is like crazy to say. It makes me sound really old when I say a decade. I'm only 28 though. So yeah, I've been doing that. I'm an online nutrition coach, online registered dietitian. That's like the main facet of my business. My business, Tony Stephan Fitness Nutrition Coaching. That's that. But then I also serve as a mentor for other dietitians, other nutrition coaches who, just like what you said, they have all this passion, all this education, but they're not taught the real world application of coaching, of client attraction, of business, of marketing themselves, putting themselves out there, knowing how to get clients in and all that. So I found myself starting with one person, and then that grew and grew and grew to what it is today, which is the I Believe mentorship. It's just a term I came up with to help people not only believe in themselves, but believe in the impact they can create in this world. So like I'm driven by impact. So I'm this uber like impactor, right? I have like my 60 to 70 nutrition clients, but then I have 15, 16 coaches, dietitians I work with who each have their own clients. So it's just massive impact that I can hopefully create in people's lives. And that's where I'm at, man.
I love that, man. I think that we get to a certain point, as you know, I was a personal trainer. I started basically, well, you're 1 year older than me, so I haven't been a full decade yet, but I'm almost. But it's just so interesting, like going through the process of like being a personal trainer and working in the field, like while you're in school getting your nutrition degree, and kind of, it's not like, talking back to teachers and things like that. It's almost like, man, it's like you're walking down these two different paths, and there's a lot of things that are kind of bumping heads with each other, and you're trying to figure out like, okay, I'm starting to get confused here. Like what matters, what doesn't matter, and kind of the application of everything. But I want to dive into like real briefly into like your background, your story, because I think that going back to impact, it is the thing that fuels your life, and it fuels the impact that you're making in this world. So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit, like, why are you so motivated? Like what's driven you to be the way that you are today?
Yeah. Well, first off, man, thank you for those kind words. I truly appreciate it. So for me, it all started off when I came home one day, and my father sat me down on the couch, and he looked at me and said, "Your mother's gone. She's not coming back. She was found dead in a hotel room." So we lived outside Detroit, Michigan, so maybe like a mile from our house. She was found dead by herself, probably a drug overdose, right? We're not exactly sure, but probably a drug overdose because she was battling all those issues. So I was sitting there, right, a young man in my early teens, and I was just trying to sit there and like process all that. Years earlier, my mother had left home. We went through some adversity. We were a few months behind on our mortgage, so my father had to file Chapter 7 bankruptcy. There were a lot of years that there was just uncertainty going on, uncertainty with, where my mother was at. She was in and out of my life. She would, show up sometimes like, you could tell very inebriated, very intoxicated. One time I'll never forget, she showed up at our house, and my dad was at the front porch. So it was a smaller home inside, Warren, Michigan. So like the smaller type homes. Dad's at the front porch, and someone's outside screaming at him. And I'm like, 14, 15. I'm like, "Dad, who's out there?" He's like, don't come look at this. Like, you don't want to see this. So of course I didn't listen. I want to go see this, right? And it's my mother outside, and she's being forcefully put in the back of an ambulance in the center of the street. And she's just screaming all these things at my dad, how much she hates him. And she's like slurring her words, right? So you could tell she's intoxicated, that she's inebriated, something's going on. And I remember like just being like transfixed on looking at my mother, of like a drug addict, right? Like someone who I remember holding down a job, going to school, going back to school, taking care of myself, my sister, my family. And here she was, this like drug addict. And then I look up and I still remember this, I see every single person in the neighborhood, because it was a smaller neighborhood, outside on their porch watching. So it's like we were the entertainment for everyone that night. So that kind of all went on, and it got to the point where then she was found, deceased. And my father was wise enough to know that I was sitting there like just all these emotions, all this testosterone pumping. I was a young man. I was, had all this anger, all this rage. Like, I mean, Justin, think about that, right? Like you're 17, 18, you find out your mother's gone, right? Like we don't have it in our ability to handle that type of information at that time. Like testosterone, hormones, all that's pumping. But my dad took me down to the basement. And in our basement, we had like a Joe Weider weight bench. I don't know if you're familiar with those, like the old school like weight bench. Yeah. Like the sand dumbbells, right? It's like those big blocky sand dumbbells. They're like duct tape on them and all that. And he literally puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, I want this to be an outlet for you. I want this to be the outlet for the rage, for the anger, for the depression you're feeling. Like mom can't come back. She can't come back. But this can be your outlet. This can be your outlet over drugs, over, crime, over fighting and all that. So that was my exposure to health and fitness. And that became my outlet. And I loved it so much, Justin. It helped me so much, just like channel that frustration, that rage, that uncertainty, that scarcity that I was feeling, right? Scarcity. Are we going to lose our home? Are we going to, file bankruptcy? Like, are we going to have Christmas this year? It helped me channel that energy. And it also led me to become a personal trainer. So at the age of 18, I went out, I got certified. I did like a take-home test and got certified. I started at LA Fitness in Warren, Michigan. So right outside Detroit, $6 a session, started training. But I knew how fitness impacted me, and I wanted to help others who were also going through adversity and challenge. But I didn't want to stop there. I didn't just want to be a personal trainer. I wanted to go become a registered dietitian to help more people. I thought more education, more credentials, more science, right? More impact, more coaching. So fast forward, I'm 23, 24, I graduate. I got this RD and I'm like, great, I'm going to go get all these clients because I'm a personal trainer and RD. Well, I was wrong. All it got me initially was more debt. So I was $45,000 in student loan debt. And here I was at this point of, I want to make impact. I want to help more people. I thought more education was the way to do it. I had lost my mother. I was still confused and dealing with scarcity mindset. Like I thought I could have some sort of like addictive gene in me, right? Like some sort of addictive gene that makes me prone to drug abuse, prone to, the psychological issues my mother was facing. And I was lost. I was confused. And it wasn't until I met my first mentor, Bedros Keuilian, and I had to make a very large investment to work with him to start to build my own business. I'm sure we could talk more about that, but flew out to Chino Hills, California, sat in his office, tears in my eyes, telling him the same story I'm telling you and your viewers here. And he looks at me with just absolute certainty. And he looks me dead in the eye and he goes, Tony, you had to experience that trauma, that adversity, that challenge, so you can lead others. Because Justin, the studies show that it doesn't matter what type of trauma we go through. So whether losing a parent, financial struggle, physical abuse, mental abuse, right, being incarcerated, whatever, the brain responds to trauma the same way. The flight or fight mechanism responds in the same way. So I want, your viewers and your listeners to know, no matter what they're going through, if they're struggling with body image issues, if they're struggling with physical or mental abuse, so overcoming that, struggling with scarcity mindset, with self-sabotaging, I understand. I can relate. I've been there too. I've had, what felt like everything stacked against me and so much scarcity, so much self-doubt, so much non-belief in myself. So I've been there and I can relate. I understand. But it was when I met Bedros and he told me that you had to walk through the fire so you could lead others. And he also said the best way I could honor my mother's death was to use that as my duty and my mission to help others. And that's when it all changed, man. That was like the catalyst that sparked me to where I am today.
Dude, I love that. I don't love what you had to go through, but I think that in my situation, I tell people all the time, I am a firm believer I had to hit rock bottom so that I could finally get woke the fuck up and realize that this is the one opportunity, the one life. I don't get another shot. I don't get another chance. And, dude, I just commend you on not only overcoming a struggle that most people don't ever have to go through, and now seeing who you are today and what you've been able to do, it's extremely inspiring. So
yeah, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I truly do.
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about I want to dive into we can talk a lot about school and whatnot, but talk to me what is the number one lesson that you learned from going to school, from getting your nutrition degree, from getting your dietetics degree? What's the number one lesson that you learned from doing that. And then I'm also going to ask, what's the number one question or what's the number one lesson you learned through working in the field as a personal trainer during that time?
Oh, those are two great questions. I've never been asked that before, so that's really good. Number one thing I learned in formal education was never stop learning, right? And it's kind of like a weird thing to come up with, but I knew that going through school was a process. That was it. I learned theory. I learned what to do with textbooks, right? I learned, what to do in this situation. There's practical experience as a dietitian, but practical experience in a hospital, in long-term care, and in food service, not with what I wanted to do. So I learned never stop learning, and I learned how to go through a process, right? I learned how to take a subject I knew nothing about, organic chemistry, medical nutrition therapy, biochemistry, whatever it was, to study, to learn, and to be resourceful. That's what school really taught me, was to be resourceful, to understand I could be a novice at something and know nothing about it and learn and grow and develop skills with it. So that was number one. What personal training taught me, which was invaluable, was how to take someone who knew nothing about nutrition or fitness, didn't really care about it, wasn't excited about it, right? Not like you and I, we don't get excited about these things, or people listening to this, and how to make them care about it, how to relate it back to them, how to go from my level of education, which is like esoteric, it's very high, but meet them where they are. Because I've seen, just like I'm sure you've seen, I've seen PhDs, I've seen master degree kinesiologists, exercise science fail because they're this walking, talking like textbook, but they can't relate it to the client. They can't go from education to application, and they fail and they wonder why. And like we said, they go get more degrees probably and then just spin out. So that's what personal training taught me at a young age, because I had to train so many people because you're making $6 a session. So it's like, go, go, go.
Gosh, man, I didn't even make that low. I started at 24-hour fitness, so I think that was like the one bump up above LA.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, it was bad.
Man, I was only making like $2,000 or $3,000. I was making like 30% of what they were charging and everything else. So. But I completely agree. Going back to the school and that, that was one of the biggest challenges for me. It was like halfway through school, I got the opportunity to go and open up my own gym. And I had to have that fall through for me to finish out my nutrition degree. Because at that point in time, I was like so conflicted. I was like, I don't actually need this. Like, why? But then it was like, well, I've already spent this much money. I'm already halfway through. Like, I want to finish it. I want to make my parents proud, all this stuff. But it made me, like, I'm glad that I did it. Like, I stuck with it. I saw through the whole process. And at the end of the day, 4 or 5, 6 years of school and in the grand scheme of your whole life is such a small period of time anyways. We don't think that when we're 18 years old going to school.
Right, totally.
That's awesome, man. So talk to me a little bit about, like I said, I was kind of reading through, obviously you put a lot of great content out, but I wanted to dive into just some of these like very general questions and things that we hear all the time, and just kind of get your take on it. So as a registered dietitian, a lot of RDs out there, it's, hey, here's a meal plan, right? Now, you and I, we both fucking hate meal plans.
Yeah.
I love the video of you ripping it up. Like, that was so funny. Yeah. I want to do the same with the scale. I actually want to go out into a field. I want to put a scale out. I want an AK-47.
That's awesome.
Video that.
That's awesome.
But why do meal plans fail, Tony? Why do they not work for people?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And here's the thing, like there is always a subset of people that a certain application can work for. So maybe for someone a meal plan will work. And I never want to offend someone, I never want to criticize someone. I never want them to feel like, well, hey, I do this and like this guy's telling me I'm wrong. No, if you like meal plans, you like to structure out all your meals and you follow that, great. However, from the majority of people I've worked with over the last decade, over the last 10 years, life does not go according to plan, right? Like I just alluded to, good coaches know how to go from here, I'm saying up here, like in the clouds, and meet clients in the sky. So you're a highly driven individual, right? You train all the time, you eat all your meals. You maybe could stick to a meal plan, right? You could just put your mind to it, focus, and hammer down and do it. Great. Most of our clients can't because they're lawyers. They're doctors, they're stay-at-home moms, they're, weekend warriors, whatever. They have all these things going on. So when you confine them to the rigidity and the overly structured application of a meal plan and they can't do it, it causes two problems. Number one, adherence is the number one important concept of a nutrition program. That's the most important thing. Can you stick to it? Not for a day, not for 30 days or 6 weeks challenge. Can you stick to it for the longevity of what it will take to get you to see the results? So that's number one. Number two, the emotional side of things. One of the things that are just overlooked so much is you cannot separate physiology from psychology. They are synergistic. They're intertwined. So when you set the bar for someone of following a meal plan, and even though it's this perfect on paper and they want to stick to it, but then the kid's soccer game ran over and they didn't have time to eat chicken and broccoli, in the car or whatever, and they have to go out to eat, they feel guilty. They feel remorseful. And they start to doubt the process. They feel like they failed. And as coaches, we'll agree, the worst thing you can ever have a client feel like is a failure, is that you are setting goals that they cannot achieve. So the adherence and the compliance, they come down. And it just creates this vicious cycle of start and stop with nutrition programs. Well, I blew my meal plan, so screw it. I'm going to just go way off the deep end now because if I mess up a little bit, I might as well mess up a lot, right? And then they'll go on this vicious cycle, gain more weight, get unhealthier, create more of a disordered eating pattern, and then they'll try a meal plan again, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think what's so interesting about it is, like you said, of course meal plans can work for some people, right? But I mean, even Ellen, who I was talking with, who she's working with, some professional sports teams, and they've gotten way far away from using a meal plan because their athletes aren't going to go follow some meal plan. Like it's going to create way more stress in their life than there needs to be. But I think it's interesting when you start to look into like different types of clients and like the ones that, maybe it's macros or a meal plan or whatever it may be. And like you give them something and they're like crazy, like anal strict about like having to be extremely consistent. Like if they go like 1 gram over or 1 gram under, like freaking out. Or it's the person that comes to you that's been logging their food on MyFitnessPal for 900 days straight,
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting. There's like some people that go like all in like that or are obsessive about it. And then there's some that can like take it with a grain of salt and they can understand like the concept, but also understand that they're not going to be perfect and they don't have to like obsess about, hitting the numbers on point every single time or following this to a T.
Yeah, you're right. And macro tracking gets such a bad reputation because people will say that like, oh, it creates obsessive behavior. A lot of RDs bash it. And, like I said, I respect our profession. I respect everyone has an opinion, but it's just not validated. Number one, the research proves when you are enabled to make your food choices daily and you can select food options, follow macronutrients, a flexible approach, flexible targets, people feel psychologically more in the driver's seat. They feel more in control and they're more likely to adhere to a program they feel in control with by picking their foods daily and having the freedom to eat out if they want or have a glass of wine. So number one, the research doesn't support that it causes addictive type behaviors. Can it happen for some? Sure. That's why you have to screen your clients. I know if I get a client coming in saying I've battled with bulimia, anorexia, I've battled with clinically diagnosed eating disorders and compulsory behaviors, macro tracking is probably not the best for you. So it really comes down to screening your clients and knowing their background, their past medical history, their past weight loss history, past metabolic history, all that stuff, and assessing and making sure your program's right for them. Besides that, though, I've never experienced in literally the 4 or 5 years I've been doing nutrition coaching, never experienced a client say, this is overwhelming to me, because you have to know how to scale it back. I do have very type A driven individuals that if it's 180 grams of protein and they hit 181, they're going to freak out. But you have to know how to coach around that. You have to know how to scale it back. I've coined a phrase I love to use: progressions, not perfections. I tell people macros are targets. They're not specific goals, like precise measurements. They're targets. So if I say 180 and you show up at 174, we're close. We're close enough because it's an estimation, right? You're not going to be scientific. We're not in a lab, not all controlled variables. So it's knowing how to coach your client and setting expectations from the get-go. That's one of the biggest things I see most coaches doing wrong, Justin, is they don't set clear expectations. So if they say 180, the client assumes, oh my God, if I hit 179, it's a failure. you have to explain that these are targets, these are goals. As long as we're coming close and we're progressing, not focusing on perfection, we're going to be very successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And honestly, admittedly, I think that's one thing that like I learned a lot from like the very beginning stages to, you know, where we're at now, is that like I wouldn't set clear expectations. I wouldn't look into like, you know, the whole timeline and try to like reverse engineer the process. Like, and so because of that, that would set clients up for failure in the very beginning. It's no different than people that are out there on their own, and the only data point that they're looking at is stepping on that scale every morning, and they're not looking into any of these other factors. And that's why maybe they're giving up on themselves way faster than what they should have if they had other things to assess as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. All right, so meal plans, going into like, so now we start, you know, you mentioned kind of flexible dieting, we mentioned macros, there's the whole like if it fits your macros crowd. So kind of like trying to clear up that, like intuitive eating, flexible dieting, if it fits your macros. Like I'm just waiting for the next term that comes out that's going to be something similar to that. But like what, like how would you describe like your diet? Like what, like if you had to call it a certain name or a combination of names, because everybody wants to say that they're on this diet, right? Rather than just saying like, hey, team no diet.
Yeah.
How would you describe like maybe, or maybe not you, but maybe just like the majority of people, and again, we're all doing individualized coaching here, but like if you had to put it into a segment and say, yes, like if I was to identify these different types of diets, like these are probably like the most common themes I'm seeing across the board.
So just so I understand correctly, this is what I'm seeing people coming in with, like to me when they work with me as a nutrition diet or as a dietitian.
Yeah, so like maybe just what you're seeing most, like, so, you know, somebody messages you on Instagram and they're like, what are the healthy foods that I should be eating, you know, to live a healthy lifestyle?
Sure. Yeah, so I see a combination of things. I think the IIFYM phase is really like people have become more educated and gravitated away from it. What IIFYM is just, it's an expression that says if it fits your macros. So like people would ask, can I eat a donut? Well, if it fits your macros, you can. Can I eat ice cream? Can I eat a pear? Whatever. So it's just kind of like a mannerism that came up with that. And I always do say that. I always do have flexibility with my clients and say, we're doing flexible dieting, we're doing macro tracking, but if you want a certain food, just fit it in there. As long as we are covering protein needs, fiber needs, hydration status, and overall micronutrient composition, because I can ensure like if that's happening or not with food logs, then we're good. Like I don't care if you have one slice of pizza, because I'd rather you have one slice of pizza, feel enabled to do so, feel educated on how to balance it in, and then not feel deprived. Because truth is, Justin, we are attracted to whatever retreats from us. Whatever pulls away from us, we want it more. So if I go tell a client, don't ever eat pizza. Pizza's a bad food. Pizza's dirty. Pizza's not clean, whatever. They're going to think about pizza all the time. Pizza. And then one day, their boss is going to piss them off. Excuse my language, but the boss is going to tick them off. They're going to come home. They're going to feel like, pizza, I can't have it. Nope. Then they're going to go binge on pizza because it was restricted. It's human psychology. What is taken away, we want it even more. So they'll go binge on pizza, feel guilty, feel remorseful. That will probably carry over into the next day and the next weekend. Again, it's this vicious cycle. So when coaches are putting these restrictions on their clients, it's creating, they're not understanding the human psychology. It's creating this huge impediment towards success, because no one does well with restrictions. No one does well being told what they can't have. It's much better to educate them and enable them to have that. And the people who are doing that, they're just uneducated themselves. You know, there's just such a lack of education in the coaching sphere. And that's why good coaches like yourself rise to the top, because, you know, you get these clients that have tried those things in the past. And when they discover what we do as coaches, flexibility, and they understand the science behind it, they understand why sugar is not evil, why gluten is not evil, why 9 p.m. is not the magical turn on for, adipose tissue creation. When they understand the science behind it, they gravitate and they're ready for that. And that's what really I've seen in the industry change over the last 10 years is because of social media, because of resources like you're creating, because of YouTube, Instagram, people are becoming educated. And those bad coaches are getting phased out and knowledgeable resources are starting to rise.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I love like the power of what like podcasts or these types of platforms are doing for people, because I was just listening to a podcast this morning on Joe Rogan's podcast with Dr. Rhonda Patrick. And I mean, my God, this guy brings on these 2 or 3 hour podcasts. So it takes
Yeah.
about 3 days to listen to. But I mean, her information obviously is way over the head of a lot of people, but there's a lot of people that, like you said, they're taking this complex information, the latest research, and they're presenting in a way that actually, you know, makes sense to the Joe Schmo walking down the street, you know.
Yeah.
Because the reality of it is like, even though this might be our like everything, and this is all we ever, you know, are looking at, and we're in the field and focused on it, like other people, they're doing that same thing for whatever their field is, and this is not their highest priority. Like this should be technically, hopefully, at some point, you know, the least or the minimal stressor in their life, rather than for most people when they start a diet or a program or a coach or whatever, it now becomes the most stressful thing in their life, and that's typically what makes them kind of fall off pretty fast. No, I love that, man. There's a lot of great points there. So talk to me a little bit. This is a conversation that you're hearing more of, you know, like refeeding, a refeed day versus a cheat meal. So talk to me a little bit about, like, I think everybody here knows what a cheat meal is or a cheat day. Now, this coined term refeed, how is that any different than a cheat meal?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And again, some people might be able to handle a cheat day and be just fine. I know if you follow The Rock on Instagram, he's got like 10 million followers. He always posts, earn your cheat meal, and he posts his like his photo of his cookies and his beer, whatever. So that's The Rock, right? That's The Rock. Most people, again, it all comes back to human psychology. When you hear cheat, like Justin, when you hear the word cheat, what do you think of? Do you think of anything good, or do you think of things bad?
Oh, you think of cheating on your wife.
Yeah, we get murdered, right? Like we get divorced, we get murdered, stabbed, never found again, you know? Especially in Texas. There's probably a lot of good places to hide a body out there, man. So you're right. You cheat on a spouse, you're in trouble. You cheat on a test, you fail the class. If a diet is the thing you're trying to do the rest of your life, and if you're not restricted, if you can have any food you want in moderation, which is the key, there's no bad foods, there's just bad portions, right? A slice of pizza, not bad. A whole pizza, kind of bad for the day with caloric total. But if you can have anything, why would you need to cheat? So again, understanding human psychology, when you apply the term cheat day, that usually indicates no restrictions, binge, and then guilt. I've never had one person tell me, again, like The Rock, they can just have a cheat day and feel good. They usually feel guilty, remorseful. They'll skip it or they'll overdo it, and it propensitates over the fact, right? It goes over and over. It's not just one day. It spills over until Saturday. If it's Friday, it spills over into Saturday and Sunday, and then it's back to Monday that they get on track. So a refeed day is a higher calorie day, usually with carbohydrates is how I like to do it, because they're more metabolically active than fats or protein. But it's a higher calorie day for when someone has been in a calorie deficit for a period of time, which we know is a stressor to the body. Your body is not designed to be in a calorie deficit for a very long period of time. It will adapt to what's going on because your body likes homeostasis. It likes a constant internal environment, right? If you get a fever, if you get an infection, your body raises its internal temperature to kill off the infection. That's homeostasis, and it brings it back down. Same thing with a diet and with calories. You're on lower calories, your body's going to slow its fat loss metabolism, its fat burning hormones to adapt and to regulate, okay? Your body's like a thermostat. It regulates any external change internally. So a refeed day is a higher calorie day to help overcome those changes. There are some physiological benefits. Some research says yes, some research says no. So it's a bit anecdotal, but psychological benefits are huge. It gets someone a mental break out of a calorie deficit. And we're not talking like someone wants to lose 100 pounds, so right away you give them a refeed day. No, like this is something as someone's getting leaner, as the body starts fighting back, as those metabolic adaptations start to increase hunger, decrease sleep, decrease performance in the gym, right? Cravings, things like that. So it's a psychological break to get them a little bit more food, re-synthesize glycogen. So someone who's active in training gets their glycogen filled up a little bit, improves their performance, and just helps them sustain the process longer. Because I mean, I'm sure you know, being in a calorie deficit for week after week and month after month, that's psychologically hard. So it gives someone like a day of the week, or, you know, every 2 days of the week, however often we depend to do it, it gives them something to look forward to. Like, oh, yes, I can have a bagel that day, right? Or I can have like a slice of pizza that day. So those are the benefits I see of it. But then it's structured. It's structured. It's built into the plan. So they know exactly how much carbs, how much fat they get. It's not this feeling of binging, right? There's no guilt associated with it because it's built into their plan. You give them targets to hit.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So is there anybody that, like, say for instance, somebody just started off with you, it's you know, they weigh 300 pounds, they want to lose weight. I wouldn't use a refeed day with them. And so I guess the question would be asked then, well, does that mean that they don't get cheat meals or refeed meals? And so, you know, how would you go about kind of answering that question? Obviously, I know how you'll probably answer it, but just for the viewers.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So yeah, of course, I would want them to know. So if someone's coming in 300 pounds, as long as there's like not some crazy metabolic issues to overcome, their daily calorie intake is probably quite high. Like I'm not a computer, but probably like 3,000 calories, 3,500. So even putting them in a modest calorie deficit, they'll still be able to include most of their favorite foods, right? So someone at that level of adiposity, right, that level of body fat, you can still include like a burger or a slice of pizza. So it's actually helping them more with the lifestyle changes of understanding, again, no bad foods, just bad portions. The portions were too high, so let's cut that down. But especially with someone like that, so someone who maybe has been struggling with weight for quite a while, right? You don't get to that level overnight, so that's probably years and years of overeating, you know, things like that. A slow taper down is best. So I had a guy one time, was about 280 pounds, and he would eat Taco Bell breakfast every single morning. So the worst thing I could have done is said, no more Taco Bell breakfast, Doug. Doug was his name, right? Don't ever do it again. It's bad. It's evil. It's not healthy. Don't do that, right? I said, can we do it every other day? He did that. Then I said, can we do it 3 times per week? He did that. And then 1 time. And then at the end, he didn't even want it anymore. But I understood the psychology of slowly tapering that person down and making adjustments like that.
Man, that's so powerful. And I love that because if you think about it, it's so simple, right? Like I ate breakfast at Taco Bell every single day. Then I went to every other day. Then I went to 3 times a week. Then once a week. Then I didn't want it. So what was that time period like? Like how long was that time period, just so that people can understand that, you know, again, guys, you're not sitting here changing the game with our first coaching call or in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, totally. So I worked with him for a greater part of like a year and a half. That changed probably to get him off the Taco Bell, I'd say maybe like 90 days. Because it was something at first that he's like, I can't live without it. So I said, okay, no problem. You don't have to, but can you live with it a little less? Right. And it comes from the philosophy of this was like this medical study. I forgot where I read it at, but this woman had like bombed out of every weight loss program ever. Like she tried Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Whole30, whatever. She tried everything. And then she went to see this doctor. And she just had it in her mind, like, here we go again. I'm going to try. I'm going to fail. I'm going to bomb out. They want me to change all these things. I just can't do it. Doctor literally listens to everything, understands, and this doctor is brilliant. And he goes, all I want you to do is walk 10 minutes a day and then come back and see me in a week. And she's like, what? 10 minutes a day? He's like, can you do that? He's like, I don't care if you stand up, walk circles, and watch TV. But like 10 minutes per day, I want you to walk. She came back next week and she's like, you know, I felt so good. I did 20 minutes a day. And he was like, really? 20 minutes? Okay, well, can we go to 30? You know, can we go to 60? And then he literally, like, he propelled her. She lost over 100 pounds. It was like life-changing for her. But it started with 10 minutes a day because he understood the psychology of the human brain that she had been forced to change too much over time. This little thing in our brain called an amygdala goes off, right? It's overwhelmed. It's anxiety, shuts down. No change occurs. So he understood that and said, I'm going to regress to where my client is. I know where I want her to get at. We have to make dietary, lifestyle, mindset, exercise changes. But if I just start her with momentum and with small wins of 10 minutes per day, I can build and build and build. Because everyone else has failed by forcing too much, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to start with the smallest change possible. Like, who can't walk 10 minutes a day, right? And that built up from there, man. So
I love that. And I mean, it's so powerful, right? I say it all the time. I say, I want to meet you where you are in this nutrition journey of life. And I want to help to slowly but surely take you where you want to be. And it's, you know, like the precision nutrition we mentioned earlier, like that's a year-long program, a year-long contract, a year-long commitment that's based off one habit every 2 weeks and building blocks essentially, right? And so I think for a lot of people, they think that it's way too slow and like it's just not enough at first. And for some people, maybe it is. Maybe they can handle more. But if you're the person like that person that feels like they've tried everything and they just can't stick with anything and they've never found success, they've never found results before, like maybe you're just the all or nothing mentality is not working for you. Maybe you truly need to tailor it all the way back to identifying your biggest issue and making that the focus area. And like if I can get off a call with someone, or if I can get on a call with somebody and I can say, all right, this is your first 2 week focus. Do you feel 100% confident in being able to do this for the next 2 weeks? And they tell me, yeah, like that seems really easy actually. Like that's all you want me to do? I'm like, yes. And because I know they're going to crush that next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to, dude. You have to start with small victories, small momentum, small buildup. So totally agree.
Love that. I love it. Man, time flies when you're doing these things.
Huh? Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What would you say is the top 3 nutrition myths that you hear in the space?
Yeah, that's a great one. Top 3, trying to keep it down to that. So number 1, just that sugar is evil. I always hear this one, like sugar. And I mean, I hear it get way blown out. I've heard it on a smaller level, like sugar's evil. Sugar is 10 times more addictive than cocaine. Sugar feeds cancer cells, all this. Number 1, I'll just say this. If you're not an oncologist, you have no right to speak about cancer. So don't ever say things like that, and don't go get resources from a health coach or a coach about cancer treatment. So just like a huge gripe of mine with that. Sugar is evil. Sugar is addictive. No, it's not. Sugar by itself is innocuous. There is no such thing as like harm propensitated from like sugar, right? Sugar's in bananas, it's in fruit, it's in chocolate, doesn't matter. It's overconsumption of calories. There's no good or bad food in nature. They're all innocuous. It's all energy. That's all it is. Sugar is energy. That's it. It's our preferred energy source, glucose. We're designed to run off of it. So if it's so evil, why were we intelligently designed to run off of it, right? It's not like we're drinking like tequila, right? To where it's toxic substance. So that's number 1. Number 2, I would say that really a huge myth is just around women, like the fear of feeding your body and the fear of more calories means unwanted weight gain, that women's metabolism, it should be, kept to 1,200, 1,300, 1,100 calories per day. I mean, I have some female clients, man, eating 3,500 calories per day with a 6-pack of abs. Now, that's like the exception, right? That's like a very genetically, metabolically active individual, but there is no one-size-fits-all case. Human biochemistry, human metabolism is very dynamic. So it's never a one-size-fits-all thing, right? Like saying you should always do this or you should never do that. It never works with science. There's no such thing. So that's number 2. Number 3, it's hard to just like put them out like this. I'd say number 3, man, just like the whole myth around like there's a certain shutoff time, right? So like 7 p.m., you have to stop eating, or like never skip breakfast. It doesn't matter. Like the best time for you to eat is the best time for you to eat. It's whenever you enjoy your meal. It's the best meal timing is the one that you can personally stick to. I understand where all that philosophy came to because 50 years ago, people would wake up, have to go to work, right? There was no such thing as online entrepreneurs. So you had to go to work. You had to go work in like the steel mill or go work outside all day. So yeah, breakfast was the most important meal in the day back in the 1930s or the 1900s. 2018, it's not, right? You can go fast for a little bit, eat later, eat till 11 p.m., 11:30 and still be successful.
Yeah, I love that. I think I would 100% agree. I'm sure it's kind of hard to boil it down to just 3. I'm sure it's much. But going back real quick on you mentioned, and I think you posted about this before, and this is a term we're hearing more and more with all the fancy, like, metabolic adaptation, hormones, reverse dieting, like all of this stuff. So like talk to me a little bit about like, what the heck is this term metabolic adaptation? Like, is it really true that people are coming to you, like that 300-pound person we were talking about earlier? Are you ever actually seeing those people come to you and they're eating 1,000 calories or less for 5 years, and that's the reason why they gain weight? Like, is there truth in this? Like, maybe some clarity, because this is something that a lot of people are asking about and talking about.
That's such a great question, man. So it all stems back to understanding what the human body is built for. It's built for survival. It's not built to be lean and muscular. It's not built to look good in a beach on beach season. It's not built to be sexy or attractive. It's built for survival. Your metabolism doesn't give a damn about your abs, doesn't give a damn about what you look like on Instagram. It cares about survival. So metabolic adaptation on like the most simplistic level is just understanding that as you lose body fat, and I mean, we're talking about getting like very lean here, right? So like whatever, single digits for men and like 16%, 15% below that for women, around that. Your body will fight back. Just throughout the whole fat loss process, your body will fight back. So even if you're 300 pounds, right, or at adequate adiposity level and trying just to diet down to a healthy body fat percentage, your body will resist the change because that's our survival mechanism. Back in prehistoric times, like cavemen and women, right? I'm not discriminating. Cavemen and women would run around. There was not McDonald's and carbohydrates and Dunkin' Donuts readily available. The humans at that time would go days and if not weeks without food. So human metabolism, in order for our species to survive, had to become very good at adapting and slowing down. Because if you were, and even today, if you were out in the wilderness and you were starving without food, would you want your metabolism to say, oh, they want to look good for Instagram and beach season, speed it up, crank up fat burning, hurry up, spend through your stored adipose tissue, which is just stored calories. It's like money in the bank. It's saving it for the time of need, for when energy is not consuming, intake is not happening, so you can expend what is stored for survival, right? Back to the principle. So you wouldn't want your body at that time to speed up fat loss metabolism. You would want to survive. You'd want it to slow down. So here we are, people are going through these cycles of losing weight, gaining it back, losing weight, gaining it back, low calories, tons of calories. And yeah, your body says, screw this, I'm done. I'm going to put roadblocks in place, right? And roadblocks are being these metabolic adaptations. So simply put, metabolic adaptation is just understanding that as you lose fat, your metabolism will adapt to that change and will resist that change. You will plateau. That's normal. That's to be expected. That's a good thing. That means your body's healthy. It's doing what it's supposed to do. So overcoming those adaptations are crucial. Knowing how to program around that.
Yeah, I love that. I think it simplifies it quite a bit. Well, look, man, I could probably ask you a million questions here. I want to respect your time. So let the viewers know, where can they find you out on social media, your website, and what's the future look like for Mr. Tony here? What do you have in store for us over these well, I guess for the remainder of 2018 leading into 2019?
Yeah, man. Well, first off, thank you again to you for all you do, for creating this resource, for, just wanting to impact others and educate others. So props to you, man. Again, thank you for doing this, because this is what the space needs, is more resources like that. Thank you for your listeners. Thank you for everyone who took time to listen out. So you can connect with me on Instagram. It's my main platform, Tony_Stephan, STEPHAN. I'm sure you'll link to it. My website is TonyStephanDietitian.com. So send me a direct message on Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. What is in store for me is just more impact, man, just trying to help more people. So whether it's a conversation like this, whether it's my own podcast, whether it's my own clients, whether it's a direct message and helping someone out, just more impact, helping more lives, and just trying to do that, man.
I love that, man. And tell us the link to your podcast as well, because it's a really, really good one that everybody should definitely go check out.
Yeah, so you will be on the upcoming episodes here, my friend. It's School of Success on iTunes and Google Play. Yeah,
guys, he has. I would argue the pod. I mean, and I'm all over with listening to all these different podcasts, but I mean, you bring a lot of great guests on there, and so it's definitely a podcast to check out. And really, dude, thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you're busy. And I'm excited to see you in November here soon. This is all like, I guess we're halfway from now, but I'm just like, wow, it's small. So I was actually gonna tell you, well, let me go ahead and tune off here.
Yeah, that was great, man.